really
There's not really
resonates with
recording
this
anyway.
event because,
I didn't set
you know,
it to
it
record.
sits on what I believe are
But
three beliefs.
it'll send here.
The power of a collective conversation, the ability to learn better
and
ways
change
of
it to
doing
this audio.
things together. That our role is to always seek to evolve as a collective. And so the future of HR has been helping progressive companies and the future-thinking human resource specialists since 2015. Someone asked me how long? Well, it's been a while. It's been voted the top 20 HR tech event in the world for 3 years running, with speakers from organizations like Google. Thank you. With speakers from organizations like Google, Discovery, ABSA, BP, Alexander Forbes, Barlowell speaking today, it's no wonder. We built up a community of over 6,000 strong community over COVID digitally. And now we're really excited to bring this back to you in this intimate event for a select few. I suppose much like the workplace, there is much to embrace with human contact and working together. So we're going to help you. It's been 4 years since we've been together, and for that reason, what I'd like to know is anybody here who has been to any of our events before, both online or in person? Do you want to put your hand up? Are you brave enough to put your hand up? Anyone? Yep, it's quite a few of you. So, if this is your first time, can I ask you to please stand up? Can we congratulate these people, please? Congratulations. Can I ask you to stand? Can I ask everybody to please join them? What I'd like you to do, we're going to start off by connecting and meeting two people. Just want you to introduce yourself to two other people in the room right now. Just quickly introduce yourself to two other people. If you can do that quickly, please. I can tell we've got HR professionals here. I can tell. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh well, you're doing well. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well done. If you can take your seats now, that'd be great. Thank you. We're off the phones, we're off the computers, we're contacting real people. This is amazing. Well done. Okay, so in a survey that we sent out to our 2,400 customers last year, we asked how we can serve them better. And we had over 1,200 responses, many of them asking for our digital events to go live again. So here we are. But they also mentioned two other key points. Number one, they wanted to connect to more people in the Topco community. So we have obviously made sure that we've got the best speakers here for today and tomorrow. But we've also cleared the schedule to make sure that there's fast-track networking sessions. And you will meet 20 people in the next 2 days. Number two, they wanted to know about our other solutions. So other solutions like the Standard Bank Top Woman, Centec Africa Tech Week, Nedbank Top Empowerment, Coca-Cola Future of HR, Coca-Cola Future Sustainability, Public Sector Leader, and Top 500 Companies. And really, I suppose what they want to know is how we're helping companies like Nedbank, Standard Bank, Coke, the UN Global Compact, and Centec. Our purpose is to inspire the world to do good business. And so I thought, let me share with you a story. It's probably best to tell a story about how we help people than me telling you how great we are. So many years ago, a friend of mine was actually working with Mteto Nyati when he was at Microsoft. And at the time, Microsoft were doing an equity equivalent program to the tune of about 500 million rand, and they're investing in some startups. And I got wind of this. And I must tell you, at the time, I thought, how can we, Topco, possibly help an organization like Microsoft? They were the highest valued company in the world. Their owner was the richest man in the world. They were the best place to work in the world. So who are we to help them? But I took the risk of phoning Teto, and I said to him, "Hi, Teto, congratulations on this transaction, well done." And he said, "Hold it, Ralph, it actually hasn't completed yet. There's a couple of things we need to still do. One of the things is the legislators are asking us that if one of the organizations fail, that we must refund a new organization. The other challenge," he said, "is if we don't get the transaction done quickly enough, that the state's going to withdraw back the money, 500 million rand. He said the third challenge was that he'd sent out a press release around this program, spending R500 million on 10 organizations, and not one of the news networks, not one newspaper picked it up. And I think he was actually hurt. And so we set about looking at ways to help him. A couple of days later, he actually contacted me and said, "No, that transaction's gone through." And we said to him, "Why don't you enter the Enterprise Development Awards?" Which they did, and they won. And then a year later, he entered the awards personally as CEO of the year, and he won again. And we put him on the cover of our publications, and he spoke at events like this of ours. And he received a lot of recognition, both through other award programs and other speaking spots. And a couple of years later, he actually wrote to me, and he said, "Ralph, thank you, Topco, for making Microsoft relevant in South Africa." And it was really a moment, I suppose, for the whole organization that we are here to serve, and not just the biggest, but smaller organizations as well, and I think we can. And so tomorrow night is the Future of HR Awards, and there's a new, say, good business. Well, good business to us is human capital. It's diversity, it's equality, it's inclusion, it's sustainability. It's performance, innovation, and tech. And a lot of our programs cover those topics, or all of them. And we understand to make a new future, you need to disrupt the status quo. And we have a podcast, Business Unusual, that tracks our award-winning businesses and entrepreneurs, and people who are doing good business differently. One of our speakers today, Luke, who's here from Mentally Fit, was one of my guests recently, so I'm excited. Well, we spent an hour talking, but you're going to enjoy his conversation, I promise you. So what we realize is the world is changing faster than ever, right? The challenges for businesses are becoming more complex with macroeconomics, not just including continental experts who are thriving in fast-paced, highly skilled tech and highly regulated environments. So my one tip to you to get the very best from this event is to go back to your offices and have your own Future of HR conference there. Because the best way that we learn is by sharing our knowledge with others. So what is the Future HR, and what does it mean? Enjoy the next 2 days and connect.
There we go. Thank you so much, Ralph. One more round of applause for the CEO of Topco Media, Ralph. Make sure without visionary leaders like himself, events like this could not be possible. So we are going to get into our very first keynote speaker of the day. But before we get into that, just a reminder that we will be having question and answer sessions throughout the morning into this afternoon. So if you do have a question, just jot that down on the notepad in front of you, and you will have an opportunity to ask the specific person that question. Also, just an invitation to all of our virtual attendees watching from various places across the country. You too are able to engage. Just pop your question into the chat box, and we will have someone guide those questions to me. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to welcome our keynote speaker of the morning, a leading futurist who empowers global leaders to navigate disruptive forces with 6 best-selling books, having spoken in 100 plus countries and lectured at top business schools, showcasing his unparalleled expertise. Today, he will share with us an important topic to set the tone for the day, titled Redefining the Workplace, Key HR Trends Shaping the Future. Please help me in welcoming the future of work expert and CEO of Tomorrow Today Global, Mr. Graham Codrington. Welcome.
start somewhere? 1, 2. There we go. We're coming. Are we coming? We're getting there. We're getting there. 1, 2.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. Am I on now?
Yeah,
There we go.
on.
Now we are. Now we are. Okay. Technology. Redefining the workplace. I've been asked to get us going, get our thinking going in the right direction. We're going to spend the next 2 days together thinking about trends, hearing from people who are putting some of these issues into action, who've got great ideas. But I've been asked to just get our brains out of the workplace you left yesterday afternoon, or some of you were in it already this morning before you got here. Some of you are in it right now as you're just answering an email or another message. But if we can get our heads into the future, that's really going to help us to get the most benefit out of all of the wonderful sessions that have been set up today. So let me do something different. If I want to take you to the future, come with me to the past first. Let's go 100 years to the past. It was the 1st of May, it was 1926, and Henry Ford made a massive announcement. You might even want to call it world-changing. He announced on that morning that as of that day, his company, Ford Motor Company, at that stage, the biggest, wealthiest company in the world, was going to shift to the 40-hour work week. Up to that point, most companies in the world had been working 6 days a week, 10-hour shifts at a time. So this was a big shift, not a small shift. By the way, some of you didn't know why May the 1st is the day that it is. This is why. Because the workers got what they had been asking for a long time. Henry Ford did not make the shift from a 60 to a 40-hour work week, from a 6-day to a 5-day work week. He did not make the shift because he was a nice guy. Henry Ford, in fact, was not a nice guy. Not at all. He did it because for the previous 9 years, his team, mainly led by his HR team, had been doing time and motion studies across the entire length and breadth of the company, trying to work out how to get the best out of their people. They had tried working 24-hour continuous factory operations. They had tried to work 3-day work weeks, 6-day work weeks. They had tried all sorts of different things. And based on 9 years of study, they reckoned this was the best. And it is actually. In their factories in particular, you might think, how is that possible? You work 40 hours, you give more to the company than if you work 60. And the answer is that after 40 hours, your productivity doesn't just start to dip, it crashes off of a cliff. People get tired, and in a factory you can see tiredness because people get injured. They get fingers and arms cut off, literally, in a Ford Motor factory. They make mistakes, the quality drops, and you can verify that. So he made the shift. Of course, everybody freaked out. A whole lot of his competitors brought a group of people to say, please go back to what you were doing before, go back to industry standard, because everybody wants to leave our companies and come and work for you. Yeah, I told you he wasn't nice. He didn't care. In fact, he absolutely loved that. A decade later, it had become so entrenched that it was written into law in America that this now was the new standard, and you now understand what a 9-to-5 job is. Some of you might be thinking, hey, Graham, that's 1938. And I think that my contract still has like 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. I know none of us in this room actually work those hours, but your contract at least specifies something around that. You might be thinking as you sit here, but hang on. Are we still working on the same underlying principles of Henry Ford's Model T Ford factory? The answer is yes. Some of you might be thinking, but hang on, has anybody ever done any work for us? Any work on what it means to work in an office, in a computer, in a modern city? And the answer is yes, absolutely they have. It might not surprise you, I don't know if it'll upset you to know that the research says that you have, and the optimum time of work that you have available to you is 24 hours a week. Anything beyond that, and your productivity goes off a cliff. Yeah. So now you know where this thing called the 4-day work week is coming from. I don't think this is a great label because it isn't about having a long weekend. Slow training day today. He's warming up. But he doesn't warm up at home. He doesn't warm up in the car on the way to work so that he can hit the office at 8:30 at full speed. Warm up is part of his job. Maybe a different example because the World Cup rugby, let's forget the cricket, the World Cup rugby is fresh in our minds. I think there's a lot for us to learn. 6 years ago, Rassie Erasmus and his team, Jacques Naber, worked out that rugby players do not have 80 minutes of peak performance in their bodies. They only have 60. So what do? Do you ask them to just stretch that 60 minutes over the 80 minutes because that's the game, that's what they were paid for, that's the contract? Do some of you understand? It might be a bit early, maybe you skipped the cappuccino, you're not sure why I'm telling you a Springbok rugby story when you're an HR person, in case it needs to just be drummed into your brain this early. I'm talking about you, I'm talking about your job. I'm talking about the fact that nobody can give 100% all of the time, it's impossible. But why do we think that that's what we should be measuring and delivering? No wonder we are all exhausted. We survived COVID more than survived. We were brilliant during COVID. Weren't you and your team brilliant? But at the cost of exhaustion. We are all exhausted. So do you know what Rassie does? He says, cool, you've only got 60 minutes peak performance. Only do 60 minutes. I love it when the uncles come, the numbers people, a chart. You think your best contribution, you think that as HR, you contribute if you get everybody in the business giving 1 more hour a day, going to 3 more meetings, answering 5 more messages, squeezing the lemon. What you will actually do as HR is contribute a lot more if you focus on peak performance. And peak performance requires, yes, hard work, but it requires some time out for thinking. Why don't you take the next 2 days to do that and just not check in with the office? Seriously. Otherwise, why are you here? Do it properly or not at all. Team development, time to get your team together. A lot of companies are saying to their people, come back to the office. And I ask, why? And if the answer is, so we can have lunch together, I'll say, I'm there like a bear. That's a great reason to be at the office. Driving to the office so you can spend the whole day on Teams meetings and answering emails, what's the point? But the exec says 3 days at the office. Why? Developing new technology, healthy living, relaxation. Ladies and gentlemen, that bottom graph there is not a 24-hour clock. That's your work hours. And I'm including relaxation in your work hours. We have to normalize and reclaim our lunch breaks. Let me put this in business language that your bosses can understand. We've had the HR chat, now let's take it to the boardroom. Graham says this when you report back. What did you learn? Graham said that if we want innovation, and if we need creativity, and if resilience and responsiveness to change is important, if agility and adaptability is vital to the success of our company. Hands up if those are true in your company. These are words you use. You've even got posters in reception. I've been to your companies. If you want any or all of those things, they are all, without exception, factors of free time. If everybody is working 100%, and let's be honest, it's probably 110% of the time that they should be working, you will never get innovation, creativity, resilience, adaptability, or agility. It is impossible. There's no magic wand that can give it to you. So we've got to do that. Here's what Henry Ford said. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said foster horses. What your exec wants from you as an HR professional next year is a foster horse. Why don't you give them a revolution instead? Why don't you give them the future, which is people who are not having the juice squeezed out of them until there's nothing left, but people who deliver at peak performance. Give them the car when they thought they wanted horses. So, what we're going to be learning about in the next 2 days is how do we shift to an outputs-driven environment. I think this is one of the biggest revolutions that needs to take place. No more measuring inputs, no more measuring clock in, clock out hours. We measure outputs. That changes the game. It doesn't have to be shared so we know you're doing your job. Just do your job. You know what I'm talking about. Second thing we're going to be focusing on in the next few years, this is a better word than trust. Forget trust, we all talk about it, but we don't do it. Do you know what trust really is? Trust is not what you say, it's what you do. And the thing you have to do is say to your people, I trust you to organize your own life so that you can give us your best. And by organize your own life, I say you choose where you want to work, when you want to work, how you want to work. Autonomy is not independence. It's not Wild West, everybody does what they like. Autonomy just says, I trust you to organize your life as a really talented, top quality person that HR verified before you even arrived, that you are brilliant. We trust you to bring your brilliance to your work. And we measure your outputs, not your inputs. Here's a sneaky one. I don't know if anyone will talk about it, but it's my favorite thing to talk about. Fractional talent. Ladies and gents, this is the grown-up version of the gig economy. The gig economy, we all think of Uber drivers and Woolies deliveries. Fractional talent is, why do we have to buy somebody's time full-time if all we need is 3 days a week from them? I'm talking about your CFO. I'm talking about senior talented people. I think we're going to get used to this in the next few years. I think COVID has shaken things up so much that we're going to be able to deal with fractional talent. I think we need to change the way we think and talk about diversity. It's not an issue to be dealt with, and I say it like that because that's how middle-aged white men normally think about it. It's an asset to be nurtured. And we're going to hear about that a little bit later today. And then, of course, we cannot have any conversation about the future if we don't talk about AI. But please, let's not talk about AI at all because we don't have AI. This stuff is not AI. It's not intelligent, and I suppose it is artificial. What it is IA. This is a much better way to talk about it. Sorry if I'm ruining about 4 speakers' presentations. It's intelligent assistance. It's not a replacement for human beings. I like to think of it as X plus AI. What I mean by that is your job is not going to be replaced by AI. Accountants won't be replaced by AI. HR professionals won't be replaced by AI. But accountants and HR professionals who use AI will replace those who don't. That's the point. We need to be talking about being bionic, which is not automation of human beings out of the system, but integration of smart, intelligent assistants with human beings to give us the best of both worlds. And of course, all of that means that we've got to have really amazing, strong data to drive it, and HR has to become a lot more data-driven in what we do. But I could go on and on and on, and my time is finished, because all I was here to do was to say, hey, this is not your normal HR conference. This is a different space for us to be. If you'd like to connect with me, I'm here all day. We can chat during the breaks, but you can also connect with me. This is what I do all day, every day, and my favorite people to work with are HR professionals. We've got to up our game. We cannot just respond to what the business asks us for, because all they want is faster horses. All they want is more juice out of the lemons. What you've got to deliver is a revolution. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Graham Codrington, future work expert and CEO of Tomorrow Today Global. A round of applause for him, please, reminding us that we don't always have to give 100% all of the time. Self-care is important as well. I just want to find out, ladies and gentlemen, any questions for Graham? Anyone jotted down a question that you would like to ask Graham? Let's get your engagement. I see there's a question for you, Graham, if you can join me back on stage. We love to hear from you guys. We want you to be engaged. So yes, love those questions. Introduce yourself, please, and then your question.
Hi, my name is Florence. I'm from ICT Works. My question is there any company that has implemented the 4-day week, and how has that impacted in terms of salaries? How have people been able to do that? Thank you.
The 4-day working week is a massive global research project at the moment. Starting in the middle of last year, 17 different countries signed up for it. So Dubai, Belgium, Iceland, Spain, New Zealand have put all of their public sector workers onto either 4.5-day work weeks. And then in Spain, the government even guaranteed companies their profits if they went onto a 4-day work week experiment. So if you, in the last year in Spain, if your people went to 4 days and then you lost profitability, the government just tops you up to the previous year's profit level. So some countries and companies have taken this very seriously. The data is genuinely there. Check out, sign up on my website there, on that link I sent you, and I'll send you the data. But just very, very quickly, I could now literally launch an hour, but let me not. The 4-day work week is the wrong language. So it's the label we're using. When people think about it, they say, but how does it work? Because now, does everybody do 5 days of work, but in 4 days, do we drop 20% of our workload? How does it work? Wrong question. What it is, and that's why for me, peak performance is going to be the language of 2024. Because it's about saying, how do we reconfigure the work so that it might not be that you get a 3-day weekend, but it's probably that if those 24 hours that are your best hours, you allocate some of those across your week and you say, that meeting needs my A brain. But then you say, that meeting only needs my C brain. And if that meeting only needs my D brain, why am I even going? What's the point? Just get the minutes. And so it's a complete conversation that we have to have. And this is why, for me, it's HR strategic. Because HR must not simply be responding to the business saying, get more out of our people, please. HR needs to be saying, but if we want more out of our people, it's not Foster horses I can deliver. I'll deliver a motor car for you when you think Foster horses is what you want. And so for me, there is an answer. There's lots of people experimenting, and I'll send you links to all the research, and you'll be amazed at what's going on.
All right, thank you so much, Greg.
Ralph
Another question. Ralph? Cannot say no to the CEO.
I'm just thinking for all the people here, like everybody's thinking, this is wonderful. I want to do this. But I've got real challenges. I've got CEOs and board members who I've got to explain this to. Like, you can give me all the evidence, all the information from everybody else, but now I've got to go back and make this happen, and they're going to ask me lots of questions that I can't necessarily answer. How do we equip them to go and implement this? Because that's what it's about. It's about execution now. How do you implement this?
I've got a great idea. There's a conference that people who have actually done some of this, and there's a language HR has to learn in, I think, quickly now. And the language is not, yes, sir, we'll get that done. The language is, no, sir, there's a better way to do it. And we've got to engage with the strategic people in our teams in different ways. And so you're going to get a lot of that today. But for me, we've got everything we need as HR professionals in terms of our understanding. I think we've just got to get a little bit more, is the word guts, to actually get it done. Some of you know what has to be done, and you're just like, who are you waiting for? Who are you waiting for in order to get this done? But now I'm seeing all sorts of hands going up. Now we're sparking things. You've sparked them there, Ralph. Abigail, we're in your hands. I can keep going the whole day.
One more question. One more question over here.
Thank you so much. My name is Olaf Baardhorst. I'm working for YouLife. And basically what we do is we work from 15 countries. We're 300 individuals working from 15 countries across the world. And we all work from home. And we are extremely productive in terms of that. And what I hear is there's a lot of questions from employers and so forth after COVID, having a drive to get people back into their offices, and just your views in terms of that and how that relates to productivity. It would be interesting for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're a classic example of people who are already doing it. Before COVID, So one of my big messages always is you've got to experiment more. You're not going to come up with the answers sitting around a table and thinking about it. And before COVID, one of my best examples of an experiment was work from home. Let a few of your people work from home, see what happens. And of course, all the senior execs fainted. And you had to say, no, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And they said, no, at home they've got the three evils, the fridge, the TV, and the bed. No, it's never going to work. And then, of course, there were people always doing it. I've done it for 22 years since leaving KPMG. So it is possible. Now my favorite example is the one I've given you today, the 4-day work week. And what we've just got to do is we first of all got to show them it does work, it is working. And secondly, and I'll end with this, here's a cool statement to any of your bosses who are insistent of getting back to the office. The office is a tool, not a destination. If it's the right tool for the job, then use it. There are sometimes your team would be slightly better off if you could actually get together. I know that because I've got a team like that. But on balance, we find the way that we are. But the office is a tool. If it's the right tool for the job, then use it. But if it isn't, don't. And that should be the conversation, not is it 3 days or 4 days or 5 days. That's a dumb conversation. And with that, I will leave. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Graham. Thank you so much for your questions, ladies and gentlemen. Graham will be sticking around, so if you would like to chat to him during your lunch break or coffee break, you're more than welcome to do so. Just a comment from someone on YouTube. Timothy Barlin says, this is such an interesting speaker. Kudos to you, Graham. Can't wait for the rest of the speakers. And Norman Nguni says, very interesting. So another special announcement, we have an addition to the giveaways that we will be doing today. ULife has just announced that they will be giving away a Garmin. So I hope that you're tweeting away, and I hope that you will check out their stand in the exhibition center. So visit their stand to find out how you can stand a chance to win that Garmin. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get into our very first mega trend for the day. It's titled Charting New Pathways, Redefining Work Strategies. Our fireside chat is around AI reshaping corporations, navigating policy for ethical automation and workforce evolution, something that Graham has touched on as well. Please help me in welcoming our speakers to the stage. Venolin Naidu, partner at Fasken Law Firm, as well as Nathan Ross Adams, data and tech lawyer at Michelson's. Welcome. Yes, I think, let me join you here. Gentlemen, welcome. So we just heard from Graham, and he touched on AI and the role that it plays in the workforce. Venelon, let me start with you. What role does augmented reality AI currently play in corporations, and how should that be navigated?
I think from a general perspective, with AI, it deals with what I see as a level where with admin tasks, so you see stuff with there's repetition, AI is taking over there. I know with cybersecurity and fraud detection, we have clients that really use AI to identify cybersecurity attacks. But it's broad, it's happening in all industries and sectors. We also see robotics using AI. We have clients in the mining industry that use virtual reality to go down a mine shaft to what methods to drill. And I can carry on with the list, but we see it happening generally with the administrative tasks. And as a lawyer as well, lawyers also in the thick of this revolution with AI. So research, AI does our research, billing, those are in HR, we send out invoices and bills, the AI system will do that. Time management. So yeah, those examples that would be relevant.
Yeah, of course. Nathan, I think there's two different sets of people, those that really have learned to embrace AI and use it to their advantage. And then there are groups of people who are still hesitant. A lot of questions around, is this going to take over our workforce? There's concerns around that. How do you think we should be managing?
Very interesting question. Is it on? Can you guys hear me?
Let me grab the mic. There you go.
Awesome. I think that should be working right now.
Yes.
Great. So I think this is the question that's on everyone's lips at the moment because there is the genuine concern that, well, the concern is coming from a very real human place. We're organizations that consist of people, and fear is a natural human emotion. If you don't feel fear sometime in your job across your career, then either you weren't being challenged in a certain way, or you were one of those people who were born with the most amazing confidence in the world. But so the fear is real, but I want to go back to something Graham mentioned, that the risk is not you being replaced by AI, but someone with AI replacing you at the end of the day, or someone using AI. And what we're noticing in advising clients across the globe is that the idea is that AI is going to, number one, support decision-making better. So if you need to make corporate decisions and they need basic support in terms of what are the key points or reasons that I need to base my decision on, you can use the technology for that purpose. And then also to support organizations in getting more efficiencies from an operational perspective. Mm-hmm. So, and one of the, look, AI has been here since the 80s. That's what most people don't realize. But the difference between the AI that we had back then and the AI we have now is its penetration, or how accessible it is to everyone on a day-to-day basis. And this is particularly so with the case of generative AI like ChatGPT. Just as a basic intro, generative AI is any AI that can generate text, images, video, like we would normally need to produce those types of things. And it's normally in a conversational style as well. So you would, it's not exactly as you would be talking to a friend, but it's very close right now. And so one of the key points related to that as well is that the generative, I mean, I spoke to a friend of mine who said he had to prepare a speech for a wedding, and he's anti-AI for whatever reason, and he was struggling, and then he Googled how to create a wedding speech, and a link took him to ChatGPT, and he used ChatGPT to create the wedding speech. It had the right amount of humor, people laughed at his jokes, and now it's his best friend. I know that's a silly example, but I truly believe that just like we had to embrace computers, just like accountants needed to embrace calculators and schools, and people in schools, the same way we need to embrace AI as it comes along.
But Nolan, I think technology is always evolving, it's always changing, and it's important to stay on top of those trends. What are the projected trends for the next couple of years, if you could expand on those?
Yeah, I think it's a bit, I mean, I'm going to go into the realm of speculation because it's moving so fast at a rapid rate. We know that quantum computing is something that's happening, and I think AI will advance as, so quantum computing is the scale of computing power and processing. So I think when that happens, we'll see AI being even more advanced. I mean, as mentioned by Nathan, we have ChatGPT. This is the first of its kind. It learns and learns, and it's right now in its infant stage. It's going to get way more advanced. With quantum computing, it's going to be even more exponential. So, you know, the previous speaker interestingly spoke about, you know, it's not going to take away our jobs. Absolutely. I think it's there to augment as opposed to automate. So it's going to make our jobs easier. For example, I mean, you asked the other question, where can we see? So HR, for example, recruitment. So lots of companies around the world are using it for recruitment. The AI will assess a candidate. It will suss out the candidate, and then it will say this person is, you know, recommended to get the job. And yeah, so coming back to your question, I think we're going to see it in various industries. I think in forms of economy, new forms of work that doesn't exist today. So similar to 40 years ago, if you ask somebody a question, you know, what type of jobs we have today in the IT industry, they would not know that, but it does exist today. So I think you'll find whole new forms of workers, gig workers in particular. It's the area that I'm researching on. I think gig workers would be even more increased. All you need is a computer, a platform, and you can be anywhere around the world to work and earn an income. But I'll stop right there.
Nathan, earlier you mentioned your friend who used ChatGPT to create a wedding speech. Let's talk about how we can harness AI specifically in organizations when it comes to streamlining operations.
So really great question. So the opportunities for streamlining operations are virtually endless, but I would start off from a strategy perspective. If you are a strategist in your organization, for example, you are the chief operations officer, and you're looking for unique ways to streamline your operations, you could actually use the technology like ChatGPT or Copilot, if you're on the Microsoft system, to generate ideas for streamlining your operations. But the idea is that you need to train those models, those AI models, on data about your organization. And the reason I'm saying that is because the South African market, or our operations and market, is very different from what's happening in the rest of Africa and globally as well, and our needs are very specific. So whatever decisions we make need to be informed by that. And then on a second level, if you think about from an ops perspective, the way we usually advise clients to consider it from is you need to have an organizational roadmap for the technology, like AI, like ChatGPT, and then consider what your lines of business are, what your organizational values are, where you actually want to head, and then map your operations out and understand the data you have, and then decide on how AI can actually integrate within your ops, because otherwise you'd just be following what everyone else is doing, and it may not necessarily be fit for purpose. So.
And then earlier, Venoland, we spoke about concerns around job security and my set of skills and what I contribute to an organization. Let's expand on that topic and talk about the potential impacts of AI on both people's jobs and also their skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the type of job. I think everyone is more or less impacted, but obviously in varying degrees. I mean, if we look at bank tellers, they don't really exist today. That's been automated. But other areas of the industry in terms of employment, that's increased efficiency. So I think where we should be looking at is trying to perhaps, depending on the workforce, learning perhaps prompt skills, computing how an AI works, having proper codes in an organization. Nathan mentioned every company is unique. That's absolutely correct. You can't take a general approach, depending on the data that you have. So it needs to be a bit more nuanced depending on the organization and looking at certain levels of the workforce to determine which skills are going to be more impacted, which are not, and then taking it from there. And to further add on that aspect is looking at also upskilling or reskilling. There's this alarmism and fear that in the near future that we're going to have no jobs. It'll be this dystopian world. I don't think so. I think we're able to adapt. That happened in the first industrial revolution. I remember earlier on there was a picture of Henry Ford that was during the first industrial revolution, and people who were otherwise working in an egalitarian society moved into working in factories. Likewise, we need to then skill ourselves to adapt. I think that would be the way to go.
Mm-hmm. We have some comments from YouTube. Nathan, I think I'll pose one to you. The comment is from Nicholas Coxon. Are corporations truly prepared to address the potential job displacement caused by widespread AI adoption? And what responsibility do they bear in upskilling, as you've mentioned, and reskilling the workforce?
That's a really great question, and I guess the question that's probably better directed at governments. But look, we live in a complex society where the governments need to support private sector and vice versa when it comes to job creation, skills development, because it's a combination of factors of our schooling system that we have and the workplace, what actually needs to happen in the workplace. But if you think of it from a corporate perspective, organizations have a corporate governance responsibility towards their employees, and that's not often discussed. And part of that responsibility includes when deciding whether to use technologies, automation technologies like AI to create efficiencies for them, that they bring their employees on the journey along with them so that they provide the right training. So for example, I was 3 months ago, I spent time in Finland and Estonia to understand what organizations were doing from an AI perspective to grow their teams at the end of the day. And one of the key things that they had mentioned was that as soon as they heard the technology was coming, they started using platforms like MS Teams to send daily alerts to their employees about what's the latest things happening in the AI space and what they need to pay attention to. And then they started introducing the tools into their daily operations. But a complexity also arises there because, I mean, one of the outcomes of the session was there were 2 graphic designers. One graphic designer wanted to embrace the technology readily. Another refused to use it on ethical and moral grounds because there were issues with bias and discrimination in the technology. And so the company reached a question where they actually asked, can they actually let the person go who doesn't want to embrace the technology? And legally speaking, they could do that, but from a corporate governance and ethical perspective, there was a need for them to actually spend time with the employee, understand the fears that are underlying that the employee has in relation to the technology, and then support them, and only after then decide whether it's best to end the relationship. So.
I see. So there's another question from YouTube. Tabiso Motlabeng is asking, Venolan, in navigating ethical automation, what legal frameworks or guidelines do the speakers believe are crucial for corporations to have in place to protect both employees and the organization as well?
That's a good question. So I think a starting point would be to create policies. So it's going to be a transition. And you want to have your ducks in a row, your legal ducks in a row, so to speak. So, the elephant in the room is people think of redundancies, so Section 189 processes. We haven't seen it as much in South Africa. I see it in my research happening in the global north. But I know in the automotive industry in South Africa, there's been a shift with robotics doing assembly of cars, for example. But yeah, I think it should be a transition. And coming back to the earlier point that I made on reskilling, upskilling, about a year ago, I did a presentation and found some decisions in the labor court that says employees sometimes have a duty to upskill and reskill. If you're doing a 189 and if you're going to dismiss, before you do that, as an alternative, consider whether it would be feasible to train that employee. So I think we're going to find a lot of labor law litigation in South Africa as we shift further into this transition. Yeah.
So with regards to AI and being able to mitigate disruptions to the workplace ecosystem, how could AI be used to mitigate?
So AI supporting AI-related initiatives. A great question. So I think it's across the board, really, and I don't mean board as in board of directors, but across the board in the different areas of the business. I think it links to the last point as well. An organization really needs to decide its approach that it wants to have when it comes to AI, and that comes with getting governance right. So how do we see this technology benefiting our organization? How do we want to use it based on our different lines of business, our workflows, etc., and then creating a roadmap for the organization as it relates to AI. Once you know where you're headed and the direction you're going in, you can decide what technologies will actually support it. What's currently happening is a lot of organizations are just saying, hey, there's something fancy and shiny. There's an AI thing out there that everyone's talking about it. We need it. I would actually say pause first and see if it actually aligns with your needs. But there's AI that's supporting doing basic things like being added to Teams calls for meeting summaries. There's AI that are being part of board meetings to actually record the decisions that are being made. In Hong Kong, there was an AI bot that was appointed to a board of directors that provided financial input on decisions that needed to be made because the AI bot could support those financial decisions very readily. So we need to consider whether that or all those case studies are useful for individual organizations.
Let's take some questions from the audience for Venolan and Nathan Ross. Any questions from the audience about AI? Morning.
I can go first, and Nathan, you can come in. So that's an excellent question. The ethics of AI use, and I think it happens both at whoever's going to develop the AI and both the user. So we know global trends. The European Union has an AI bill. It's making traction. I think in Germany and France, they're actually having their own codes of conduct. What's happening is around the world, they're taking it from a risk-based approach. So the higher risk AI, that would require more regulation, and the lower risk area is obviously not going to require as much. And so the themes are, being open, transparent. It shouldn't harm humans, and we can carry on as to all of the various aspects which cause harm. With employment, for example, we've seen in Europe, in the US, where AI, I mentioned recruitment. So some AI systems were using, obviously you're using it to recruit, but it was indirectly discriminating against the candidate. It was perhaps they may have a disability, so their eye contact, or they may have certain facial impairments. The AI is using biometric software, it's assessing that individual, but it's not taking into account that person may have an impairment. So that could be discriminatory on the basis of being disabled. Some people may have an accent, from a certain country. Perhaps they're a person from some part of the world. They're in Europe trying to find work, or any other part of the world, and their accent creates an impediment to gaining employment. Again, that's also discrimination. So the AI needs to be, whoever's going to be working with it from an HR perspective needs to understand these are deficiencies in the systems. And so you need to then, I think, with the high-risk systems, you need to have human intervention or human oversight. I know that's part of the paradox, because you don't want to have humans involved, you rather have an AI. But I think with the high-risk AI, you need to have some form of human oversight. And the risk is employers will be liable. If it's found that the system was discriminatory or indirectly discriminatory, you will be liable for compensation. In South Africa, they'll go to the CCMA or the Labour Court. And of course, from a general perspective, I'm all for ethical use of AI, responsible AI. I'm not sure if Nathan wants to add on here.
Yeah, it's a really great and topical question right now. I would, my take on it is sort of different, that I see it as a part of corporate accountability. So if the organization decides to use AI, it needs to be accountable for the actions that AI takes, generally speaking. It becomes more complex when there's a complete value chain where you have an AI developer, AI provider, all part of the value chain. But what works, or what's practically being implemented right now globally and in South Africa, is that organizations have an AI governance policy where they're setting out how they're going to deal with accountability from an AI-related perspective. And so what they do is they consider the AI life cycle. So that's a typical AI project lifecycle would be, you have a problem, you consider whether AI could solve the problem, you get the right data, you then build the actual AI model, you test it with a sample set of people, then deploy it, and then monitor it basically afterwards. And so at each stage of that life cycle, there are levels of accountability and accountability checks. And some of the best practices that have emerged that we've advised clients and governments on are to consider expanding cyber insurance, so that organizations have, to cover the harms that AI may cause. Some countries are also considering creating a national compulsory insurance scheme similar to the road accident fund, where you can claim, where victims of AI-related harms can actually claim from. And then the third element is basically when harm does happen, that you actually have, you follow your incident response plan to actually deal with the harm, correct the harm, and make sure it doesn't happen again. You shouldn't just leave it over there and pretend that it's not going to go away.
Thank you, Nathan. Any further questions on this topic? No. Then I want to ask if an organization is talking about perhaps implementing AI into their organization. It could be quite daunting if you aren't tech savvy. What sort of tips would you advise on how to get started and how to incorporate this into an organization?
Yeah, I think Nathan mentioned before, it depends if there's a need for it, and I think having a plan, you mentioned a roadmap, so yeah, something to that effect. I think looking at doing an assessment to see whether the business is needing it. In the real world, it's true, we all use it indirectly or directly, and it's going to grow as we move further into the future. But I suppose every organization is different. If there's a need, then of course, yeah, I think one would need to look at what type of systems you would like to use, who are your service providers. I mean, Microsoft has Copilot, so that's it's a big system, but you may have more specific types of AI, and there are a lot of service providers, so you need to look at that aspect and see whether there's a need for it. And then working out from there how you're going to achieve all the goals, but also mitigating your risk. And that means including having policies and training I mean, I see, HR practitioners being trained on ethical AI use to ensure that whatever using AI on doesn't have a negative impact on those it impacts on. Yeah, I'm not sure if Nathan wants to add on there as
Nathan,
well.
any closing remarks?
Yeah, I would just say that it really comes down to, I know I'm repeating this, but it comes down to the fact that your organization can't take a general approach. You'll consider what AI you want to use, whether the use cases are relevant to your organization, whether there are any specific market considerations that you need to look at, and then also identify whether the risks of adopting the technology justify its use. Because if you're going to spend, let's say you spend 5 million rand a year on subscribing to some sort of AI solution, and then the risk profile for actually developing that AI is worth 15 million, but the benefits you'll only get out are about 2 million. It doesn't make sense to actually adopt that. So there's a high level executive need for consideration of that entire picture. But on the ethical side of things, I don't believe in using the terminology ethical AI. AI is not needing to be ethical. It's organizations that need to be ethical. AI needs to be trustworthy. And I say trustworthy in that it's going to do what it sets out to do, and that corporate stakeholders like customers, suppliers, etc., actually trust what it's going to do. But it all starts with attending events like this, understanding, engaging with the concept, and then taking it back and actually making it actionable in your individual organizations.
Definitely. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and your insights. We appreciate that.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was Vinalo Naidu, partner at Fasken Law Firm, and Nathan Ross Adams, data and tech lawyer at Michelson's. I sense a little bit of a hesitation when it comes to asking questions, but don't worry, the gentlemen will be sticking around. So if you want to network and engage with them, you are able to do so. Just another announcement, don't forget to keep playing with us on social media. We would love to see your various tweets, your posts, your videos. Tag the Future of HR on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and use the hashtag Future of HR and hashtag FOHR. We have some vouchers to give away as well, and we will be doing that tomorrow, so be sure to stay tuned. Just another comment from someone on YouTube, Noman Hazarvi says, great learning so far. Special thanks on the Chat GPT tip. I'll also write a speech for my friend's wedding using that. Now, how many of you guys are going to be using Chat GPT to write speeches for your friend's wedding? Let's see. No one. You guys are obviously confident enough to do it on your own. But we're going to get into our next keynote speaker. Now, the title is Navigating the Next. What does the next generation of people leaders look like? Join us for a thought-provoking discussion that dives into the evolving landscape of people leadership. As organizations undergo rapid transformations, the role of people leaders is also undergoing a paradigm shift. The session will delve into the qualities, skills, and characteristics that will define the next generation of people leaders. And at the forefront of this address is the head of market HR for Sub-Saharan Africa at Google, Avanti Maharaj.
Welcome. Is this on? I think it's on.
Yes.
Yep. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm going to sit up here. So let's address the little green man in the room. Will the next generation of leaders be human or bot? So by show of hands, who thinks the robots are going to win? Okay. Well, I'm glad to say, and I got it on very good intellectual authority, you're going to be stuck with a human for a fairly long time. So good morning to the guests, fellow enthusiasts of human potential. I've been given the distinct privilege of sharing with you some thoughts on the topic of what does the next generation of people leaders look like? Some of you might be thinking, well, we don't even have this generation of people leaders figured out. So how are we going to make this work? Maybe now would be a good idea for you to look around the room. And this might give you an idea of how. But before you log into Bard or any other AI app to figure out a solution, I want to give you some human insights into the opportunities and possibilities of this. As we stand on the precipice of a transformative future, the landscape of leadership is undergoing a profound evolution. Bolder leaders might even say revolution. I think we can all agree that leadership is not a simple concept, and there's no single formula that an effective leader will possess. With seismic shifts in the workplace, the next will actually need to possess a unique blend of skills, qualities, and perspectives to navigate uncharted territories that do lie ahead. Does COVID ring a bell, anyone? While AI, Graham, I've used AI, not IA, while AI and automation are certainly changing the nature of work and the way organizations, as we've seen, operate, there's certain aspects of leadership that cannot be replicated by machines. And I think that the next day or two is going to be a testament to that. These are areas where human interaction, human intuition, creativity, and social intelligence are actually still highly valued. So what skills and qualities will the next generation of purpose-driven leaders need to succeed in this new world of work, where the norm is video calls, hybrid office time, working in your pajama pants from home? By 2025, millennials will make up 75% of the workforce, signaling a pivotal shift in workplace dynamics. The next generation of leaders is likely to be shaped by several factors, including your technological advancements, demographic changes, and evolving societal values. If we had to unpack all of this, we're going to be here all day, but I only have 10 minutes and I'm on the clock. So I'm going to give you a TLDR, which is a too long, don't read, shorter version of this. As a leader, one should be able to embrace an infinite mindset, as described by a few leadership advocates such as Simon Sinek, Craig Groeschel, Indra Nooyi, Sheryl Sandberg, Ajay Banga, but to name a few. But what does this look like in practice? And I'm only going to cover 5 elements, so you will not have to be here all day listening to me. The currency of connection is the first one. Empathy is actually not sympathy. As we know, the world is increasingly being driven by technology and automation. However, the human touch still remains the cornerstone of effective leadership. The next generation of people leaders should be masters of empathy, possessing the ability to connect with others on a deep emotional level. Does that sound familiar, or is that a strange concept? Empathy allows leaders to build meaningful connections and develop deep trust with each member of their team. And it also helps leaders to navigate interpersonal relationships with compassion, regardless of their shared experiences. Of course, learning how to show this kind of genuine care is key in creating that golden thread of psychological safety, where employees actually can feel safe and valued. However, I believe that empathy is the heartbeat of leadership. And this not only allows us to see things from a different perspective, it helps us understand underlying emotions that are driving people's mindsets, words, and behaviors. Empathy ultimately gives us a roadmap on how to help our teams get what they actually need. Going back to basics, and this is something revolutionary, so take note. Going back to basics of self-awareness and self-regulation is actually going to be the norm. The second is embracing change and uncertainty. That is certain. So how agile will you need to be? Leaders need to inspire, innovate, think strategically, lead with vision and purpose, and do all of this while driving financial results and shareholder impact. Let's not forget about that. However, the future is an ever-evolving landscape. characterized by rapid change and uncertainty, as we've heard. I think the next generation of leaders will need to be very agile navigators of this dynamic and disruptive environment, embracing change with open arms and adapting their strategies to the ever-shifting needs of the workplace. Learning never ends, and they will continuously seek knowledge and skills to equip themselves and their teams for the challenges and opportunities that will lie ahead. However, this does require a novel approach to leadership and organizational development. Research shows that an organization's performance is only as strong as the consciousness of their leaders. We should be working towards building future leaders and getting them ready in ways that helps them understand the needs of the business, but also, at the same time, helping them build their capabilities and also deepening their consciousness through powerful combinations of growth and development opportunities. Some of you might recall the adage of 70% real life experiences, 20% development and relationships, and 10% traditional learning. The third is unleashing your power of the collective. How empowered will you be? Leadership is not about exercising control or instilling fear or being dictatorial. Does those sound familiar to some of you in the environments that you work? It is actually to inspire people to reach their greatest potential by establishing the basic foundations of communication and trust. The next generation of people leaders should be empowered. It should be empowerment catalysts, creating a climate in which people feel trusted, motivated, and equipped to take ownership of their work. They should also be able to recognize that the team's collective power far outweighs their perceived individual genius. And this establishes a culture of collaboration and shared ownership. Servant leader principles such as serving others, actively listening, and encouraging cooperation and teamwork will be a crucial distinction for this leadership layer. We must remember that the alpha generation, those born after 2012 and younger, are growing up with a strong sense of purpose and desire to make a positive contribution and difference in society. So the next generation of leaders will use this attitude to promote economic success while simultaneously addressing very urgent social concerns such as sustainability, inequality, environmental responsibility, but all the while remaining accountable. And here's your favorite three-letter acronym. It's not just DEI. We are actually creating a mosaic of diverse perspectives. The world is a tapestry of diverse cultures, backgrounds, and perspectives. The next generation of leaders will be champions of inclusion, embracing the richness of diversity, and creating a workplace where every voice is valued and heard. They will even recognize that diversity is not just a buzzword or a nice-to-have OKR or KPI, or even about the numbers any longer. It's going to be a source of innovation, creativity, resilience, and will be essential for thriving in an increasingly connected world. I think leaders will intentionally cultivate a workplace that values differences, such as age, gender, race, and generational perspectives. It's all in or nothing. And what does all in mean? It actually means it will require commitment and work from individuals to reinstall new habits of being inclusive in the day-to-day of human interactions that they have. So leaders will look at DEI as a business strategy, but it won't be buried in HR and fall at our doorsteps and say, HR, solve for DEI problems. It's going to be a full end-to-end, day-to-day lived experience. And I think the last area I'd like to touch on would be the rise of the authentic leader. leading with transparency and vulnerability. I think authenticity in a world of real connection will characterize the leaders of tomorrow. They will stop putting on airs and start being themselves, taking the lead with honesty and actually openness. They will be receptive to criticism, humble enough to own up to their own shortcomings, and be able to foster an environment where being genuine is not only accepted, but cherished. Trust, motivation, engagement via real connections is actually going to be the essence of true leadership. Integrating these values and skills and purpose is about taking charge with purpose, knowing your own limitations, and actually acting in accordance with your principles. They will eventually recognize that authentic leadership isn't a destination. It's a continuous journey of self-discovery and growth. So how do we as leaders lift as we rise? And what legacy will you all be leaving for the next generation? You may never realize the profound impact that your words and actions actually have on a person. Decades later, someone might recall a moment when you uplifted or supported them, and you may never get to hear about that. However, I think accolades shouldn't be our only motivation, as authentic leadership does not lie in pats on the backs or high fives, but it lies in impacting others. So I would like you to reflect on 3 questions over the next 2 days. The first question is, can you think of a specific instance where your encouragement and guidance profoundly impacted someone's path that you are aware of? The second is, how do you envision your legacy in terms of influencing the next generation, even long after you have parted ways? And the third is, does your leadership stem from a place of authenticity and a genuine desire to uplift others? And you don't have to have all the answers today or tomorrow, and it might hit you as you do your midnight reading a month or a year down the line. But as authentic or as leaders around the table, I think this is something that we should be cognizant of and recognize and reflect on. I believe that the next generation of people leaders will not be defined by titles, positions, or even degrees. They will be defined by empathy, agility, empowerment, inclusion, and authenticity. They will be architects of a new era of leadership, where human potential is unlocked by humans. Let us remember that the generation of leaders is actually not a distant mirage, but a force that is already shaping the world around us. And we around these tables today are actually contributing to this exactly. Let us embrace and expose their transformative potential, support their growth, and empower them to navigate the next generation with courage, bravery, wisdom, and an unwavering belief in the power of human connection. John C. Maxwell said, "The pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, and the leader adjusts its sails." Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Avanti. Can I ask you to kindly just stay on stage? We have a few questions for you. The first one is from Nicholas. He asks, how can we ensure that the next generation of people leaders is truly diverse and inclusive? And what steps is Google taking to challenge any existing biases in leadership selection?
Thank you for the question. I think that absolutely, it's not a perfect science. Google, as much as we would like to think and say, is that we've got it done, we've got the solutions. But I think especially with DEI, it's an ongoing day-to-day journey of recognizing your challenges, recognizing that we do have conscious and unconscious biases. And HR, being an enabler of discussions with your leadership, with your teams, with your managers, needs to be able to have open, honest, transparent discussions of where these challenges do lie. So once again, as I said, it has to be a day-to-day conversation and working together to recognize where these potentials, where these opportunities lie. And it's going to be a journey. It's not going to be something that we're going to solve for in a day, a month, or a year. DEI is an everlasting, evolving experience of employees. But we've got to start that journey of 1,000 miles with a few steps.
100%. Another question from the CEO of Topco. Ralph is asking, how does Google go about choosing and selecting their leaders?
Not with AI, I can start with that, or a bot, or a robot. I think, what's unique at Google absolutely is, yes, there is a human that is behind, if you're looking at purely recruitment processes. But I think leadership is more than just some of one aspect at Google. We look at something that is called Googliness. What is your purpose? So why do you want to be part of an organization? And I think, we talk about the mission in Africa is basically Google's mission is to have the information on the internet accessible to everyone. We have 1.5 billion people on the African continent, of which only 600,000 have access to the internet. The opportunity is phenomenal. So when we look at leadership, when we look at growth, when we look at development opportunities, purpose absolutely ranks and stacks really, really high in terms of what do you want to wake up and contribute that you can control. And it's not just about hiring a genius. It's not, in days when I look back and say, why am I here with that imposter syndrome? And I'm thinking, should I be here? But then I wake up with the purpose of, can I make the difference? Or can I make a difference in one person's life? And I always use the star analogy of where you can't save 1,000, but if you save one person or one aspect or contribute to one thing, you've made the difference to that one element or one person.
And it's significant enough.
Absolutely, and it's good enough. So leadership, growth, and it's something that is top of mind for us. But once again, it's a daily, transparent conversation on growing learning and development, which I think those are the basic cornerstones of what makes it a purposeful getting up from your bed every day and getting into the office.
Fantastic. Avanti, thank you for your time. Thank you for your
very
insights.
much.
It's
Thank
been lovely
you.
hearing from
Thank
you.
you
Ladies
so
and
much.
gentlemen, the head of Market HR Sub-Saharan Africa at Google. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I think it's time for us to stretch. You guys have gone a little bit quiet, so we want to get everyone standing up. We're going to have a fast-track networking session happening for the next 30 to 45 minutes or so. So if everyone could please stand up, this is how it's going to work. So find someone you have not spoken to yet. You're going to tell them, not yet, as soon as the buzzer goes off, tell them, A, what you do at your organization, 2, what problem you face in your company, and thirdly, what industry issue you solve or you would like to solve. So we're going to have 3 minutes per person. Once you find your first person that you want to network with, you'll have 3 minutes to talk to them, and then they'll have 3 minutes. Once you hear the music, that will be your sign to swap, change, and find somebody else. Are we ready? Ladies in the front here, you're still sitting down. Can we have everyone standing up? We want you to engage. We want you to network. So we are going to be starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's network. Ladies and gentlemen, the second announcement to please kindly make your way back into the auditorium as we will be commencing with our program in the next 2 minutes. Thank you. You won't be able to see the speakers. I won't be able to? Oh, no.
That's so weird. I feel weird. Just 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2.
Vandaag is entire team. Sorry. Okay, can you hear anything? Did you get that?
2.
You're mute. I've heard this thing like can you have more speakers? I can't. I heard something from your team. I need help. I really don't know what I'm doing. Am I missing this garden? Okay. Hi, Gilson.
Hello, can you hear me?
I'm gonna start officially at 12. Just want to get now. To test your connectivity. This is our tech team. We're hiring you.
Looks good.
Okay. Is it good? We just waiting for Lillian to join. Can you mute yourself in the meantime?
Sure. You want me to keep the connection on?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've had a chance to stretch your legs, grab something to drink and something to eat as we now are officially commencing with our program. Once again, a big thank you to everyone who is engaging on social media platforms. We see all of your tweets, all of your posts, and we are keeping you in mind when it comes to those giveaways. So up next, we are going to get into a fireside chat, and for that, I'm going to be joined by the head of people at Discovery Vitality, Sunri Naidu. Thank you so much, Sunri. So we're going to be unpacking navigating the invisible workload, examining the mental health toll of non-promotable tasks on HR leaders. Yes, please, have a seat. I'll join you, in fact. Sunri, welcome. Super excited to chat to you. I think let's start by defining non-promotable tasks and just the impact that that can have on HR leaders.
Hi, Abigail. Can everyone hear me?
Is it clear? Not? I think use one of these.
Okay. Thanks.
It's going to have feedback.
Okay?
Yeah, give it a
go.
There we go.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here, seeing all you lovely ladies and gentlemen in the room. I'm really excited to be part of this conference, and yeah, thanks for having me.
It's lovely to have you.
Thanks. So, non-promotable tasks. I think, there's everyone in this room that can associate this with the type of work that's expected of us. And when I say expected, it's the type of work where there isn't really much recognition for you. Someone needs to do it. It contributes to the overall success of the company. Most often it's quite operational, task-focused, takes up a lot of time. But the really sad thing is that it's not always recognized. So it's never in your job description, doesn't form part of your KPI, and it's definitely not one of the factors that contributes to your career development or promotion, etc. And I often find that us, HR folks, fall into that kind of route where we volunteer to do it because it's the right thing to do, because it makes us in the people function look good. And, we are there for people. That's what we do. We make everyone happy. So it's a very tough line to say no.
Let's talk a little bit about motivation and why individuals should be motivated to take on these sort of tasks. You did mention that it is the right thing to do, but that does not make it necessarily easy. What is the motivation?
Yeah. So I think, if I talk from personal experience, you've got to take a step back and think, what will I get out of this? And when I say what will I get out of this, it doesn't mean I'm asking for more pay, or people shouting from the rooftops. Sundri's actually taken on this task. What it is you've got to think about, what can I benefit from it? Will it allow me to network with people that I don't usually work with? Will I get to work with the team and understand their dynamics? Or will I learn a new skill, something that doesn't fall within my competency or job profile, and it might be fun actually doing this. But I suppose if it becomes too much, I think that's when you have to say no or push back or ask for help.
Sure. Yeah. And in those moments when it does become too much, it can become demotivating. Let's talk about mental health and how that ties into these sort of tasks, because it's an important conversation to have, one that is often overlooked, but one that is vital. How do we ensure the positive and a healthy mental health when it comes to these HR professionals who are willing to take on these tasks?
Yeah. So often it's, if no one else can do it, let's just ask HR, okay? And our workload is quite heavy already.
Sure.
And if I think back at the start of COVID, I mean, everyone in this room, I'm sure, were COVID officers, if I could say. We were pushed out of our comfort zone. We had no training on how to deal with COVID, people's mental well-being, staff members passing away, family members passing away. But all the line managers said was, can HR deal with this? And if I think about, my time during COVID, my team and I were literally signing permits to allow people to go to the office. So if they were stopped by the police for being on the road, they had a permit. We were, helping people get vaccinated, scheduling appointments for people to get vaccinated, ensuring that if we booked 50 people to go to Mill Park Hospital, that those 50 people were there. So that took a really strong toll on us in terms of mental well-being, because no one trains you to deal with people that are struggling, families that are struggling financially, emotionally, partners, parents losing jobs during COVID. But we had to step up to the platform and be the ones that were supporting the rest of the workforce. But I think what was really critical during that time is that no one thought about the HR profession. No one thought about what HR people were going through, trying to support others. We didn't have that training. We're not the well-being officials of the company. So what we did, and if I can give a practical example, at Discovery Vitality, we started a program called Thrive, where we created a business case for, we call it for happiness, where we wanted people that have gone through a really tough time, including our HR colleagues, to be equipped with tools that would allow them to thrive, even though it was such a challenging time. So we created a program based on self-coaching. When the world isn't all doom and gloom, how do you stay positive? What are you most grateful for? Where does kindness come in? Where does gratitude come in, etc.? But in creating this program and making sure that everyone subscribed to it or participated, we moved the burden from HR to the line managers, where we said, this belongs to you in your team. You have to run your own leader-led dialogues, and you've got to facilitate these sessions in your team, because actually the team members report to you. You know what everyone in your team has been through. You need to be much closer than the HR person. And then the HR team were actually part of a group as well. So it allowed me to be part of the executive circle, because I reported to the CEO, where I felt I was getting support and not being the one having to give support. And I think that really changed the culture and set up more of an engagement where this fully belonged to line managers, and the ownership started at exec level from CEO all the way down to Manco and the line managers. So that's how we try to counterbalance the effects of mental well-being and the burnout.
But then, Sunri, how do you gauge the effectiveness of these structures? How do you ensure that this is working for the specific people who we have at our company? How do you measure that we are on the right track? And what are some of the red flags to say, you know what, maybe we're not on the right track, maybe we need to do some changes?
Sure. So, great question. We always want to measure, we always want to see the outcome, because that's how we prove if something's working. So for us, we in our second year of running the program successfully, and when I say successfully, our staff overwhelmingly said, please can we not end the program, because we thought we'd pilot it for a year, and then people would be self-sufficient to kind of use their own coaching manuals whenever they needed to, use it to journal, etc. But the teams gave feedback saying, we really want to continue this initiative, because we created psychological safety. It's not often that a senior line manager gets to really understand what a staff member is going through. It's always layers of removal. And then to be vulnerable, because the line managers are seen there to tell you about work and decide if you're fulfilling your KPIs and you're actually contributing and delivering. But when you as a line manager demonstrate vulnerability and you saying, guys, I know what you're going through, this is what I went through in my family, or this is what the last 6 months have been for me. It allows that dialogue. So that was very successful in that. We also run our annual engagement survey results, like most of you do here. And one of the categories or section was on well-being and mental well-being. And we saw quite a big shift in the scores in terms of pre-COVID, in the middle, like a year after we returned to work, and then a year after. Questions around, do I feel safe in my team? Do I feel like my mental well-being is being prioritized? Do I have flexibility? I think, all of that contributed to us seeing that this is actually working. Mm-hmm. And another theme, if I could say, that we try to do in Vitality or kind of promote is we want people to really love coming to work. Not, I have a job and I'm getting paid. Like, it must be your passion and you must love what you're doing. And if you don't love what you're doing, that's where this just becomes a job to you. Mm-hmm. So all of our initiatives on people engagement focused on that. Love what you're doing. Create more passion. How can we help you to fulfill a passion that you have being at work?
Earlier you touched on a certain level of relatability, perhaps opening up about some of your own issues or your own concerns. But ultimately, we are in a work environment and things need to stay professional. Yes. Where do we draw the line, that work-life balance, in being able to share some personal points about yourself, but still keeping it professional?
Sure. So when we started this initiative, I think people were a bit wary. I mean, why should I open up? Why should I share with you? But the moment that the line manager created that vulnerability and shared, people were a lot more open. But over time, it became much more safer, where I felt like as a line manager, I now have a relationship with you, and you didn't even know that I had 5 kids, but now you know, because in our one-on-ones, how are you? And it's fine. And then we get to our list of tasks. And also, I think in terms of the training that we provided the line managers so they could facilitate these sessions. We didn't just blindly send them into these sessions. We said, if people are uncomfortable or still a bit closed off, respect those boundaries.
Definitely.
Don't say, well, Abigail, you've been really quiet this entire session. Let's hear from you. I think that's horrible. You're really putting someone at the spot.
It creates unnecessary pressure.
Yes. So once you feel safe, you will start sharing. Mm-hmm. And also, I think the team members started to take a lead where they would kind of volunteer to say, well, I would like to lead today's session, but we never once said, are there any volunteers?
Okay.
So people just, if they felt that they wanted to take over, they would, yeah.
Sure. We've spoken a little bit about mental health, but I want to go back to the topic of non-promotable tasks. And what strategies can HR professionals use when assessing whether or not they should then take on those specific tasks? Is it just a feeling of, I should do this, and I'm going to do it? Or are there certain thoughts that one should think through before deciding, okay, I am prepared, willing, and able to take on these tasks?
Yeah. If it's something you're going to enjoy, please do it, because we talk about passion, right? For instance, I absolutely love doing events. So with someone with no marketing background or anything, I'm known to throw the most epic parties in Vitality. So yeah, if there's a party, please come and see me. I'll do it. But not at the expense of not fulfilling your big strategic projects and goals that you're going to be evaluated on, that's going to enable you to grow and develop and get promoted and move to, another role or another division of the company. Don't let that lag, because often these non-promotable tasks take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's not a quick thing. I'm going to do it in half an hour and I'm done. And you would probably stand the risk of pushing your other big deliverables aside or postponing, and I think that could be to your detriment. So I think really weigh those options up.
Sure.
Yeah.
We've got some comments coming through on YouTube. Someone is saying, loving the pink ladies, pink for Vitality. I promise we did not discuss what we are wearing before this. Nicholas says they definitely chatted about their outfits beforehand. That is not true. And then Norman says, I agree fully, Sunri. HR just take on all other roles that have no business with HR, but I think mostly it is because we want to engage on a different topic with employees rather than that HR topic. So we are seeing people wanting to explore and engage in different aspects.
Yeah. So the one thing is that women do a lot of this, right?
Yes.
And our room is predominantly women today. And it's no different from like being at home. We do take on a lot. We feel obliged and compelled to be that person who takes on a lot more. Our male counterparts are very quick to go, no, ask someone else. I really don't want to do it.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that, because I'm looking at a stat here and it says research has shown that women spend 200 more hours per year on non-promotable work than their male counterparts. Why is that?
So it's part of our inherent qualities, right? We are the nurturing type. We want to take care of people. We want to see that everyone's okay. We really don't want, after a meeting, I often do that. After Exco, it upsets me that people leave their coffee cups on the table. So I am the one that's always clearing up because I'm respectful of the next team coming in to use the boardroom, that these, but like eventually you've got to say, guys, when this meeting's over, can everyone please put their cups into the bin? But men just wake up, sorry if I'm generalizing, and leave. But it's in the same vein that we don't think that we're ready to be promoted. In the same way, we want to make sure we are 150% ready before we think, okay, I'm ready for the next role. I'm going to put up my hand for this. Whereas men often in the research shows, even at 85% go, where's my next role? Okay. And I'm not sure if it's directly linked to the fact that we don't have enough time to juggle everything we take on. Family, home, and all of the non-promotable tasks that we feel, well, I really don't have time. So we might be miles ahead on development and the way we do, like academically, our studies, etc. But we just struggle with saying no, or I have too much on my plate right now. And no one's going to hold it against you if you say no. I really can't do it now. I would love to, but I've got these 5 big deliverables. So I think about your goal, where you're going to, where do you want to be in a year or 2, and what you'd have to forsake for taking on these tasks.
I think for some people, it's not as easy to say no and to set those boundaries. What sort of tips do you have for people who struggle with that, who will say yes to 90% of the options that are not on their to-do list? How do we set those boundaries? How do we learn to say no?
So when you are junior in an organization, honestly, you should do it. It stands you in good stead because you, as I said, you meet other teams, you build networks, you build trust, and you might discover passions that you actually didn't know that you were good at. But as you become more senior, it does become easier to say no. But again, I think you've got to really be assertive and explain. It's not being out of malice. I would love to, but these are my deliverables right now, which are often strategic, the more senior you are.
We've got some questions coming through on YouTube, and I want to encourage our in-person guests as well to please ask some questions. A question from Vendravani Deda says, how do you transition from a career in finance to something in the HR field?
Oh, wow.
How do you make that transition?
So the one thing I know is that we can't transition into finance. I mean, really. So I think, we seem to put people into buckets. You are very astute on numbers, you belong in finance. You have really good interpersonal skills, you belong in HR. But the future world of work has indicated our roles have completely evolved. It is not just about relationship and skills right now. And if your passion is that you want to work within the people space, And if that's the route that you want to go, then I would suggest that you actually study. But before you enroll on a course, etc., we have a lot of people at Discovery that buddy with us or ask to be seconded into HR, to give it a try, maybe 3 months or so, to find out, is this for me? As opposed to embarking on a field and going, this is not really what I want to do. However, we do a lot of finance work in HR. We control big budgets, we make remuneration decisions, so that number element is definitely there.
We have a few more questions coming through, but one comment says, I 100% agree, you can't delegate coaching to HR, that is the role of the leaders. How would you respond to that comment?
If you can't delegate?
He asks, what are the biggest HR issues facing businesses currently?
Yeah. So talent acquisition is definitely one of the big issues. I think, attracting talent in the market, it's really tough out there. I think we're all competing for the same talent. But I think the challenge is that we all want the best. We're not just recruiting 5 accountants. We want somebody who stands out, and I think the rest of our competitors are doing that. The second one is AI. I think, we are lagging in the HR field in terms of how we're using AI. Like the rest of the world or businesses are ahead. For instance, in the learning and development space, I don't think that we're doing enough or quick enough to harness AI as opposed to traditional or online classroom training and development. I think that's something that we really need to accelerate our efforts in. Otherwise, we'll be left behind and the rest of the business will be running with AI.
We actually had a very interesting conversation earlier around AI. Why do you think we are lagging so far behind in South Africa? What needs to change?
Within the HR space.
Yes, specifically tying into AI.
Yeah. So when AI first started, and it became a buzzword, and we were trying to identify roles where AI couldn't, be like people couldn't replace AI, etc. HR always came up as our roles are safe. They need us. They need that human element. But we've actually seen that actually our roles are at risk. You do need the human intervention, but a lot of our repetitious, process-driven tasks could be automated. And I think we've stayed behind in the same way that with the rest of business, we're not quick enough to make that transition because we're busy supporting the business and what the actuarial team wants to do and where data science lies, etc., that we haven't made that transition. But we kind of need to partner with the business and do it hand in hand.
Sure. So any questions from our audience? There's a question right over here. If you could please.
Is where does HR go to for support, and where does HR turn to for the safe space? So everybody comes to HR, as you said, and especially with the pandemic, those personal boundaries evaporated quite quickly because we got exposed to what is happening in people's personal lives a lot more clearly. But where do you go for safe venting, just to, and also for your own guidance and kind of, your moral compass?
Sure, yeah. That's a great question. And that's how, I first started to really think about mental well-being and the impact on the HR community. So most companies like us, and you guys too, we have employee well-being programs. Ours is called Healthy Company, which Discovery members can access, as well as the staff. But again, it's easier said than done, right? I've never phoned or called Healthy Company because somehow in my mind, I started the journey thinking, if I can help others, I can help myself. I'm sure I've got this. But then you realize you actually don't have this, okay? So it's really important to belong to a network. For instance, we have a group of colleagues, all in the same field within the people space. We actually use this group to vent, to give accolades, to kind of support each other, and it might be dinner once a month or coffee when you're in the building 3 times a week, etc. But what's important is that we have a common role, so we experience the same pain. And I'm not talking to an accountant who can't understand what my morning has been like. No disrespect to any accountants here. But you have to create those network and support structures. And if you've got a line manager where there's psychological safety, it's okay to go to your weekly one-on-one and go, today I'm just venting. I just want you to know what a tough week I've had and why I feel upset or anxious. And then you know what? Next week we'll go back to all of my big projects and deliverables and what I'm actually sharing for the rest of the week.
Fantastic. Sunri, thank you very much for your time, for your insights.
There's 2 more questions.
We've run out of time, unfortunately, but she will be here for you to network and ask questions too. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the head of people at Discovery Vitality, Sunri Naidu. I do apologize that we couldn't take any further questions. All right, we are going to get into another panel discussion. This one is focused around African talent diaspora, leveraging global connections for local impact. This session will discuss how HR leaders can tap into African talent to create a global network that contributes to local development, knowledge sharing, and skill transfer as well. We have 2 guests joining us virtually. Eugenia Subara, Head of People and Culture at APSA Mauritius, will be joining us virtually, and Lillian Ngala, Human Resource Director at Diamond Trust Bank, will be joining us from Kenya virtually as well. They will be joining us on the screens shortly, but joining us in person and on stage is the Human Resource Director at BP Southern Africa, Theo Mochabi. I need you on stage with me, Theo. Welcome.
Comfortable and sit there. Okay.
Theo, welcome. So very interesting conversation. Please, a round of applause for Theo. While we wait for our 2 virtual guests to join us, Theo, we'll get into the discussion. In the meantime, let's talk about the African talent diaspora and why it is important to expand.
I feel so alone.
Unfortunately, the other 2 guests will be joining you virtually, so on the couch it's just you and I.
Yeah, so what's the question? Let's check. I think it was meant for one of them. And now I don't know what to say. Check.
No. I was just asking, with regards to harnessing talent from Africa, why is it important to explore further than just our borders?
It's important because we have varying degrees of skill gaps across the globe, right? We have our understanding of where our skills gap is in South Africa, and you can imagine those of you who have been outside of the country and actually work outside of the country, you can see there's similarities and there's also disparities. And so
It's also going to take some time to get our virtual guests back on the line.
What was I saying?
Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. We know this is the norm here in South Africa. So Theo,
this is one of the reasons, right? People don't come back after they leave South Africa in terms of talent migration. problems with some of our infrastructure problems. Anyway, back to my answer. What was I saying?
So we were talking about the importance and why it is important to harness that talent from across our borders.
Yeah, because we don't want to be naive enough and think that this is all we got, this is what we need, all the talent that we have locally is what is going to necessarily take us to the next level. We need to be humble enough to know that there is a possibility that outside of our borders there could be some people, some talent that know a little bit more than we do. And so how we deal with that will be very important. How we structurally take talent outside of our borders and how we receive talent within our borders and how we ensure that whatever skills, knowledge, or transfer is meant to happen actually happens. I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of times in organizations where we have experts coming in and they do the job and then they leave and we still have a knowledge gap, yeah? Because we haven't been deliberate in how we're going to retain that knowledge and cascade it down in the rest of our organization.
We've lost you again?
Not only that, it seems like we struggle. We do very good in sending people overseas in giving them the exposure, our talent locally and Africa. But we're not very good in bringing them back and giving them a real role outside of another job of bringing that knowledge back. Not just in your own organization, but in communities or rather in wider industry or field of expertise. So, yeah.
So we have our virtual guests who have now joined us, Eugenia Subara, Head of People and Culture at ABSA Mauritius, and Lillian Ngala, Human Resource Director, Diamond Trust Bank, Kenya. Eugenia, let me come to you. I want to, as the Head of People and Culture for ABSA in Mauritius, what benefits does diverse African talent actually offer companies? I think you might have muted.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here today, and thank you to Tobacco Media for inviting me. So, talking about the diverse African talent and what they offer, I think my experience, whether in Africa with multinational companies and with ABSA Mauritius now, what we've seen that the talents coming from Africa, right? First of all, a very simple, I would say, experience we see is that the African talent, you know, in these days we are talking about Bani, or before we were talking about VUCA. The African talent has gone through a lot of these during his childhood and his university days, and this has made him really become very, very resilient. And we have seen situations where the African talent usually would be delivering great results, I would say showing great talents to surpass the counterparts. We've seen that, especially, for example, development. We've seen in Mauritius, a lot of those techno people coming from Kenya are giving really are excelling and helping the industry, whether it's from a banking perspective or from the ITO perspective, it's helping the industry really to thrive and really get very innovative. So that's one example I'm taking to show how, you know, the diverse African talent can be really we can leverage on those. So the other thing I've come across with African talents is they are very authentic people. They will speak of their mind, and they won't mind voicing their concerns because their attention is around continuous improvement and the betterment of the organization, right? And I think this is really a strength because it helps a lot in bringing trust in the system, and it helps a lot towards really pulling the people together for the higher good of the organization, right? ABSA's Absal's philosophy around force of good is something that relates very well with African talents, and I think that's a key strength we have seen with. The other thing I would mention is the openness to culture diversity. So obviously African talents come from diverse cultural backgrounds, experiences, and they bring that difference and that diversity to the table. This helps a lot into creativity, putting up solutions, and really strengthening and bringing innovative solutions for the business. I think this is something which is very aligned to our value of inclusivity. And we tend to listen to various viewpoints, and this is something that is I would say, another strength of the African talent. I think that mobility of African talent across markets is very interesting. I remember when I was working in the Western Africa, for example, talents would move across the French Francophone Africa, and would have a good understanding of the culture of the different countries as much as the system. And this would obviously help a lot into devising very successful marketing strategies and getting very culture sensitive to the market and get the product accepted.
Sure. Let's bring Lillian in, as I see she has joined us. Lillian is the Human Resource Director and Diamond Trust Bank in Kenya. Lillian, what are some of the challenges, would you say, we are experiencing when finding and recruiting a diverse array of African talent?
Very good question there. And first and foremost is to thank you, the top media, for having me in this conversation. I really appreciate. Secondly, I don't know if my voice is very clear on the other end because I'm having a very bad cold. I hope you'll be able to hear me. And,
we can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll just go to your question. I think the challenges that you're facing as African countries is just labor mobility as a whole, whereby labor mobility is a challenge from the point of, if you look at it from an individual perspective, these are people who invested in their countries. These are people who you have to really convince them, like, this is what it is, this is what we have on the other end that can make a difference, and therefore we can see your talent, come to this country. If I was to hire somebody from South Africa, I'll have to actually entice them to come all the way to Kenya. Reason, because they've already invested in those countries, and therefore that mobility becomes a challenge. Another challenge, besides the individual's perspective from a talent view, and another aspect to be on even the fact that cross borders, you're still having challenges from one country to the other. For you to, I think right now, if you're to come to my country, it's easier because my president has already worked on that. We are saying you don't have to have a visa if you're coming this side, but those are the things that we are facing in other countries. So then the question is, I think we even have to go to a broader perspective, not just from HR angle alone. We also need to have to ride on the government propositions, whereby they can also appreciate that actually we need to open up our borders. We don't have to think of work permit, and work permit is quite expensive from one country to the other. So those are the things that we're facing, from the cross-border issues, from the individual attachments. I'm attached to this place. How do you convince me to come to South Africa and work there comfortably and maybe tag along my family? You have to pay the higher premium for you to attract me. So those kind of things is what is making us not to have a diverse pool. Yet we have very good talent out there, but when you think of the cost, when you think of the premium that I have to pay for an expatriate, then I have to think twice. I have to say, yes, you are an excellent contributor, you would make up a very good talent or a very good asset in my organization, but I think I'd rather attract somebody from within. So yes, I think for me it's the cost that comes with it in a holistic manner. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there are still a number of barriers to entry. But something interesting that Eugenia touched on, Theo, was the resilience of the African resilience of African talent. And yes, I suppose that can be seen as a positive, but it also puts a lot of pressure. Being resilient comes with a lot of pressure on your shoulders. How do you navigate that dynamic of yes, being resilient, but also making sure that, you know, the conversation that we touched on earlier about mental health is also respected?
Yeah, so if we describe, have a general description of, you know, African talent being resilient, it's a huge generalization, right? Because that in itself is quite relative. Instead of focusing at the individual's level of resiliency, I think, well, not instead, the other thing that needs to be done by organizations is to look at what environments are we creating that puts people in such situations where they have to be that resilient.
Sure.
Yeah. So coming back to the conversation around talent and essentially migration and cutting across borders, one of the things that will ensure that we keep our talent or we have them come back is our employee value proposition, right? Our EVP. How good is your EVP and how well is it packaged within your organization? An EVP is basically what's in it for me. What's in it for me in terms of compensation? What's in it for me in terms of my benefits? What's in it for me in terms of my career? What's in it for me in terms of the environment in which I'm going to work in? Is there psychological safety? Is there focus on health and personal well-being? And where are we going as an organization, right? Culturally, what do we stand for and where are we going as an organization? So there's the employee value proposition perspective that will retain our talent, bring them back when they go, when we actually ship them out or when they decide to leave our borders as a continent. But there's also the issue of employer proposition, which says, what does this company stand for? Nowadays, people don't just go for work for the sake of pay. There's a point where you go, well, it's all about association, right? We learned that at BP very quickly when we realized we're selling a product based on something that was destroying the world. And we decided that we are going to change our value proposition. We're going to change our ambition so that we show that we care for the planet and the world, and people started resonating with that. These are the things that we really need to start thinking about. You know, employee value proposition, employer value proposition, where are companies positioned in the world? And then lastly, if you don't mind, infrastructure. You know, 10 minutes ago, we were having a conversation and boom, load shedding. Yeah, that's just another sign, another, you know, variable when people do leave South Africa and they start enjoying their life outside of South Africa, they don't want to come back.
OMG, that hit a nerve just now.
Yeah.
Eugenia, I hope that you've heard the question.
We didn't get the question. You can repeat again.
Yes, one of our...
Repeat.
The question was, what environments are we creating that require people to be that resilient? OMG, that hit a nerve just now.
Okay, thank you for that.
Sure.
I think in the way we are approaching the new world, the future of work, right? I think what we are seeing is a couple of things happening. First, I think Lilian mentioned, some of the colleagues I think mentioned about the AI that is coming in the workplace. Secondly, we see organizations that are becoming flatter with less levels. And thirdly, we are also seeing that the ways of working are changing, meaning that you can have hybrid work or you can have remote working. This is obviously changing the way people are working, people are connecting. So with this in mind, we need to obviously build up those skills set for the future of the workforce. And here what we are looking at people who can become more disruptive in their approach, right? And becoming really more innovative and getting solutions which can go to customers in a very swift and timely manner, right? While looking at more nimble processes. So it's a new way of thinking, a new way of working, which should be more agile. So this is one thing that we are showing the workforce to adopt. The other thing is really around how to build on your resilience. So a couple of things happen here. One is wellness programs. Is about how you can cope with pressure, how you can work in a conflicting situations, how you can work really to focus on results, and how you can build up a company which is more attuned around having conversations which bring solutions rather than getting to places where you just conflict on ideas and nothing come out of it. So a couple of initiatives can be taken around that to make people really more resilient. And I think this training of the leaders and people managers to offer a more
more attractive and encourage African talent to come their way? Lillian, I'm not sure if you heard my question.
No, I didn't get you at all. Please go for that.
I was touching on the points that you made earlier around barrier to entry and challenges that African talent have when trying to cross border. What sort of packages should the company put in place when it comes to the workplace and recruitment packages in order to become more attractive to these talents?
Excellent question there. And forgive me, I didn't get your name.
Abigail.
You only take care, Abigail. So first and foremost, like my colleagues have also talked about, also alluded to the point of for us to be attractive, for us to attract the right talent from different countries, different borders, we need to have a premium attached to it. I need to know, for instance, if I come to South Africa, if I go to Mauritius, if I was to join another country, my kids, will they be taken care of? Who takes care of my kids? Those kind of things. So you can have a package of even just saying, when it comes to education matters, there is an education policy around that. There can be another issue of making sure that there's return ticket to my country. So there's so many things that you can put in place that can attract the talent from different countries as opposed to the local. Most of the time, the education works very well. For education of the children, assuming these people have children, assuming this particular talent or the particular candidates do have kids. Another component will be the issue of just making sure that my housing component is taken care of. I need to know, where am I coming to reside? If I'm going to work in Joburg, then is there a particular place that is going to be, am I going to be assigned, or maybe are you going to help me settle down? So even at the beginning, I might maybe catch up later, but there could be, the housing is very key, education is key. Another component would be the salary, because definitely I'm coming from, I don't know, there's so much that can be put together, but most of the time for me, top of mind are those three areas: education for the children, ability to come back home at any given time, because even myself where I'm working right now, we have experts, we have expatriates, and we do take care of them from that angle. So there's a reason why we are doing that, so that they're able to settle down and focus on their work. Like you said, African talents, you are very, very resilient in nature. What we need is just the support from the HR component. We are very resilient when we are taken care of. And then another thing is just having that empathetic leadership style in us. Just position yourself. If you're to go to another country, how do you want to be treated?
Sure.
Then treat those particular expatriates in that manner. These are people who are coming to a foreign country. You don't expect them to start looking for schools. They don't even know which good schools are there. It is upon you, the HR, to even identify the schools for them. And then tell them these are things can suit your children, assuming they are people who have kids. Then you go to the component of housing. I'm a new person. I'm totally new in this world. Work permit and all that. I don't want to be the only person out looking around the housing. Which estates should I live in? Where is safety, by security? Like we said, HR is it's a very broad area. It's got so much to do with the well-being and all that. I need to know about my safety. So go step ahead and even think about the housing. Give them an opportunity even to know this is a place that can actually be, suit your cadre, suit your, so many things. So yes, to me, I think it's just going a step higher to make sure that they're comfortable and that their welfare do matter. And that's why the EVP, the employee value proposition, comes in very handy. They're totally different from the locals, and they should be treated in that manner.
Sure, definitely. Theo, I want to shift gears briefly and talk about Africa having one of the fastest growing youth populations. Also, here in South Africa, we have one of the highest youth unemployment rates as well. Let's talk about the importance of bringing in the youth, including the youth, and giving them opportunities across Africa.
Yeah, my biggest worry about the fact that we have huge unemployment in the youth, the fact that the skills gap keeps on growing as the world is changing so fast, is that we are not even learning how to, we don't even get what's the best way to impart learning on the youth. So that worries me, is that we're still using old-fashioned ways of learning solutions for a generation that's coming that might not be interested in those type of offerings, or they're learning quite differently. It worries me that their perception of the world of work is also changing, is so significantly different to what maybe me or somebody else that's a little bit older. And yet we talk about EVP being a core of retaining talent or attracting talent. That itself will always need to be reviewed and changed.
Sure.
So I can't remember what's the lady's name?
Lillian.
Lillian was talking about resilience, combining it with EVP, which is good. But I suppose what we need to say is we need to make sure that it is relevant and inclusive across all age demographic or all types of diversity, but also very agile and nimble enough that it can change. There's a question online, Abigail, I'm taking your job.
Yes, directed to Lillian. Well, there's quite a number of questions, in fact, online. Tabis was asking, and Lillian, this question is directed to you. Addressing skill transfer, what specific strategies have proven effective in bridging skill gaps between the diaspora and local workforce, ensuring a sustainable, inclusive approach?
Can I have the first jab at that?
Go for it.
If you don't mind, yeah. So one of the things that I've seen work is a very deliberate talent rotation plan, including expatriating people outside of the country and bringing some in. And when I say deliberate, I'm talking about making sure that it has a beginning and end date. And an end date should be when the person comes back into the country and actually transfer the knowledge that they've gotten. I've seen that work very brilliantly. A lot of companies I've seen only have it halfway. They send the person over for 3 years and maybe when they come back, we'll have something for them, we'll see. But being deliberate means that you will go there for 3 years, you will learn these specific skills, you will come back after that 3 years, and you will impart these specific skills on this identified succession plan. That's much more deliberate of a plan, yeah? But I'll pause there and maybe let my colleague...
Now, I actually wanted to take a second question to Yajendra. Yajendra, I hope that you're still with us. There's a question posed from YouTube asking, do you believe that organizations are leveraging the African talent diaspora more for cost saving rather than genuine contribution, Also, how can we ensure a fair and mutually beneficial partnership?
Thank you for that question. You know, diaspora is becoming a very hot item, especially at the HR level. We all want to have more and more attraction of that diaspora pool. So if I take the example of Mauritius, right? When we look at we have a talent war happening here in Mauritius right now, right? Unlike the continent, I think we have the talent war has started big time, and today there are some pockets of the industry where we are having recourse to our brothers and sisters from the continent, right? You know, a big chunk of people of South Africa is in Mauritius. Property business, especially, is being taken care from that, especially by the South Africans. The Kenyans have come and helping us a lot in the technology, even in banking and ITO. I see Madagascar people helping us in the BPO. So this is happening already in Mauritius, not from a compensation perspective, right? I think what you're looking at is to have value for money, and and affordability obviously is a key element for any organization. But the most important is whether what we are paying is matching according to the competence that we are enjoy. This is the other thing that the Mauritius government has done is to offer a 10-year tax holiday to all the Mauritian diaspora who want to return to Mauritius. So this is really very attractive and is helping the Mauritian companies to tap this market. And obviously, when they are coming back, right, in addition to all these incentives that has been spelled out listed by Lillian and also by Theo, right? I think what's important is that these people, they want to give back to the country, right? They have left the country early, around 18 years, when they went for university abroad and they settled and they gathered experience. I think each and every diaspora is thinking about how I can give back to my country, right? And this is where we need to strike the balance, right? Is it a money issue or is it more a purpose issue, right? And I think it's our I would say mission as HR professionals to strike that balance when we discuss with these people, right? You can't pay an American salary in any African country. This is absolutely ridiculous. We have to afford that salary, right?
Sure, I think it is, yeah, it definitely is that balance between money and purpose. Eugenia, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. I want to open up the question and answer session to the audience. We've got a question over here in the front. If you could just introduce yourself and let us know who your question is directed to as well. I think, let me give you this mic, because I am much closer. Here you are.
Thank you. My name is Valentine Malevo. I'm from Liquid Intelligent Technologies. My question is directed to Theo.
Oh, I knew it.
But maybe before I start asking my question, Theo, congratulations on scooping the Young CHRO Award last week. My question is, I know most companies, we battle with, this notion of expatriation versus repatriation. We do well in expatriation because it makes sense. We run global organizations and we understand the importance of talent mobility. But 3 years later, I know you've alluded to the intentionality of skill transfer and EVP, but when we want to repatriate the skill, it does become a little bit too expensive. To Lillian's point earlier, we find expatriates do become accustomed to the level of lifestyle where their housing is paid, their school fees are paid, and all that. So from an affordability point of view, how do we really and truthfully be able to repatriate the skill?
Budget for it. Yeah, if you're really intentional, you'll put the money, where your plan is, where your mouth is, and that's the one thing. But again, like I said, it's a collective approach. Companies can do so much to bring people back. There's also the idea of lifestyle, as you say, infrastructure. If you get exposed to a little bit of life in Switzerland, then you think of coming back to South Africa, you might think twice, and especially if everything is still fine. That side, and you've been offered a permanent job. But when I talk about infrastructure, that's the one element. There's also a sense of pride about what we're doing in the African continent. There's a lot of good that's happening. And I think that's also attracting some people to come back and give back and contribute to whatever has been built in Africa. And I think that can go a long way to say, what is the culture, what is the value? Jürgen was talking about, there's a sense of identity of African talent, and one of those things is resilient, but there's also an element of pride as well. Yeah, we've all felt it when the Boks won the World Cup, that sense of pride of belonging. And I think some people, when they're out there, they do want to come back and recontribute to that. But yeah, deliberate plan means that you're not going to just say, we're going from A to B. You're going to there for 3 years, you're going to come back, but you'll do what is necessary to make sure that they are reintegrated in that. I've seen a policy like that in BP that really makes it easy for those people that are coming back, that have been having lots of subsidies. I've been one of those people myself, lots of subsidies from abroad, and then they come back, they reintegrate them for about a year or two to make sure that they're not worse off than they were coming back in. Budget for it, make sure there's money for it.
Fantastic. Theo, thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this panel discussion. Thank you so much. My pleasure. I'd like to also thank our virtual panelists, Eugendre Subara, Head of People and Culture at Absa Mauritius, and Lillian Ngala, Human Resource Director at Diamond Trust Bank in Kenya. A round of applause for the both of them. Thank you so much. Alrighty, we've got one more item on the program before we head out to lunch. It is a case study titled Striking the Balance, Energy, Recovery and Support in Workplace Performance. In today's fast-paced work environment, energy management for balancing delivery and recovery plays a critical role in determining employee well-being, productivity and long-term success. Please help me in welcoming our keynote speaker for this case study, Executive Business Coach and Country Director at Mentally Fit South Africa, Mr. Luke van der Hofstadt.
Thank you, Abigail, and thank you for having me here. First, maybe a small comment, how to have people coming back to South Africa. So I decided to come here. You can hear it in my accent. I'm not originally South African. I feel South African. I'm since 8 years here. It's my company. I decided to immigrate to this beautiful country. And with all the challenges that this country has, I've been traveling all over the world for work, for everything that I do, and it's my favorite place. I'm the lucky one, I live in Cape Town, but I love it, more specifically in Hout Bay. So let's be proud, and I feel South African. I even have my permanent residence. My family's happy and I'm happy here. It's a beautiful country, and let's not underestimate that. But that's not the topic. So before lunch, I love everything that I heard here. Let's see if the clicker works. I love everything that I heard here. I want to spend more time with you because all the challenges, everything that you bring up, that's my job, of my colleagues. That's what we do. We energize people. Okay, so I'm going to talk. It's short, 20 minutes. I'll give you my views and my colleagues' views how to do energy management. So, can you still hear me? Yeah? But anyway, I got a loud voice. So, at Mentally Fit, we do energy management. We do energy management We are not ESCOM. We try not to have load sheddings, but we can link it to load sheddings. So there's two things in energy. I'm part of an organization that was created 26 years ago in Belgium, and headquarters are still in Belgium. We're in 20 countries now, all over the world, and I'm in charge with my colleagues. One of my colleagues, Andrew, is there, development of Africa. And during probably the first 20 years, we were like energy for performance. That's what we did. I spent a lot of time, July and August, with my colleagues, and we decided to change energy for performance. We changed it, energy to balance, on one hand, the delivery. So that's the performance. We all have deliverables, KPIs, budget. But what comes here? The recovery is more and more important. I love what Graham said, what Aventi said, Sentry. We all need to take care of the recovery. When we have load sheddings for human people, it is burnouts, depression. And we see it skyrocketing all over the world. I talked to my colleagues, and we decided to stop to call it energy for performance. It's energy to balance delivery and recovery. So if you look at delivery, that's when you are at the office looking at delivery. So you're spending energy, but Graham said it and others. When do we recharge energy? When do you take care to recharge energy? I mean, you wouldn't let your phone die without energy. You recharge it. So how much do you take care of your recharge, the recharge of your team, of your people? So that's the important thing. How do we do at Mentally Fit, my organization? How do we balance energy and recovery? It's three things that we do. And it's everything what the other speakers have said. First, it's self-care. I need to take care of myself as a leader, as an HR professional, so that I can help the other ones. More and more people are asking our organization, can we please have well-being programs, executive well-being. We see these executives that run into burnout. So first, I take care of myself. The second one, I take care of the people in my team, individuals. We speak about the one-to-one. Not, did you reach your KPI? How's your energy? How's your energy? I mean, at Mentally Fit, with our team, we're a startup mode in South Africa. We're about 12 people. We start with, how's your energy? How was your weekend? That's how we start the week, and on Friday, we close the week with the same. And then, the last one, let's take care as leaders, as HR professionals, let's take care of the team's energy. So often, I tell the people that I coach, don't be the best of the team. Be the best for the team, okay? And I love what I heard this morning also. What we do, our unique value proposition as Mentally Fit, is that we use sports metaphors to coach corporate athletes. So sports is our laboratory. We still work with sports people, but our business is to coach and train professionals. So that's what we do. So I'm really happy with the victory, the well-deserved victory of South Africa in this World Cup. And we can make links to that. So how do leaders balance delivery and recovery? And how do HR professionals do that? So let's look. The first one is delivery. So we are all in an organization that needs to make profit. We are in a capitalistic world, okay? So there's the delivery. I think COVID has shown us that the other part, the energy, the recovery, is really, really important. So ask yourself, how much do you take care of your energy? How much time do I spend doing that? Next, let's take the examples of the Springboks, Jacques Niebauer and Rassi Erasmus. How much do they connect individually asking their players how they are. Ask yourself, how much do you do that? Or how much is your manager coming to you? And the last one is team care. How much do you sit together? Tomorrow I'm going with a client. They do their end of year, and we're going to do a closing of the end of year with them, but not an IQ closing, not about numbers, but what went well in this team. And then something that we do in sports, but that I feel you do less in companies, it's the sub-teams. You hear about the Springbok coach for the defenders, for the attackers. So the sub-teams are important. So please pay attention of the energy, not only of your team, but what could be maybe the strikers are the salespeople, maybe marketing is midfield. So take advantage and look into that also. So when we talk about team care, we connect people. When we talk about sub-team, we connect teams. So it's marketing working with HR working with sales and with operations, okay? How do we see leadership? For us, leadership is in the middle. My definition of leadership is creating positive energy. HR professionals, they are the catalysts of this positive energy. So I was the one putting the comment on YouTube. Leaders, you cannot delegate coaching to HR. Hey, I got a problem in this team. HR, can you help us? That's a task of leaders that they should do. Now, let's look at the delivery. For us, there's two things. The first one is deliver today. The next one, as a leader, as an HR professional, is prepare the future. So ask yourself, maybe now, how much time, the people in this room, how much time do you spend in making sure that you hit the KPIs, the numbers, weekly, monthly, quarterly? And how much time do you think how your company, how HR, how leadership is evolving? Can anybody give me a ratio? How much time do you prepare the future in your day-to-day? How much time you make sure that the deliveries are hit? Anybody? Mostly for today. How much percent would it be for today? 80. So that's what I put there. Huh? But I put the 80-20 there. So I was working with a pharmaceutical company, and I was asking the CEO of this pharmaceutical company that I coach, how much time do you spend in preparing the future, and how much time do you spend in delivering today? And he answered me, 30 in today and 80 in the future. Our world is going too fast. If you don't prepare the future, you might be out of business. You might be the next Kodaks. You might be the next Nokias. So stop. As leaders, as HR professionals, maybe it's rocket science for you. But most of the people that I do one-to-one coaching with are too busy with delivering today. So please, empty your backpack. Don't stretch your hours. Empty your backpack. Delegate to your operational people the deliver today. And think about tomorrow. And please, think about the energy. I tell my people, recovery is part of your salary. Okay? We have an Olympic athlete, for the ones that know him, James Thompson, South African Olympic rowing, gold medalist in London. When James gives keynotes, he shows the program. James was paid to win this gold medal for South Africa. Only 2 teams have won gold for South Africa. But he was paid to recover. You see his schedule. He trains. You know how many hours soccer players train a day? How many, you think? They put their body under pressure. 3 hours. 3 hours. Maybe 1 hour to the gym. The rest is recovery. So how much do you take care of your energy? Okay? Let's look at the role of HR professionals, of leaders. How do you stretch and care for the people? How do you take care of their energy, but we still need to perform? So on one hand, there's energy for performance. On the other hand, there's energy for recovery. So if I want performance, I need to challenge my people. I need to stretch my people. If I don't give energy boosters and what I call anti-pains to my people, stretch without support will lead to burnout. Stretch with support will lead to growth. So leaders are there to stretch their people so they can reach their objective. But they need support. So let's look at what we need to give the people and what they have the right to. So the give are the anti-pains. Number one, all my colleagues said it, sense. And the sense is not only numbers, IQ. Sense is IQ and EQ. So the why before the how and the what. We are in a sense-driven organization. I do a lot of team coaching with companies, and we work on culture. What do we identify? Number one, what's our purpose? The purpose of the company. Okay, that's number one. Number two, focus. There is way too much out there. So what do we need to focus? Yesterday I was with Colgate Palmolive doing a leadership training, and the senior leader said there's way too much out there. Can we look at the priorities? If you are a leader and HR professional, and that I want to see you as part of your team, and that you say, please, call my PA, and maybe you have 15 minutes in 3 weeks. It's wrong. You need to be available. We spoke about authentic, empathetic leadership. I cannot be empathetic, 100% agree. All over the world with my colleagues, we said 2024, empathetic leadership. But for that, you need to be close. As a coach, I'm close to my pitch. Rugby is a little different. Jacques and Rassi, they're up there. But they have their people speaking there. And the last one is praise. Everything has been said in this room. So we need to praise. As a team, we need to celebrate. I talked to Sundri of Discovery. She said, I cannot stay because we celebrate the people. So when there's a win, celebrate as a team. And please recognize your people individually. I loved going in to see the box. I took my team. Said, guys, let's stop working Friday afternoon. And we go into Cape Town and we're going to cheer for the box. The box had 2-3 weeks where they celebrated together and individually. So stretch the people, but please give them sense, focus, support, and praise. Ask yourself in your head, do I give that to my team or do I receive that? Stretch the people if you want them to grow, give that. The next, the people have the right to be heard, okay? Give the people a voice. So constantly scan, pulse, survey. Your people, they are on the pitch. They know what's happening there. I have some clients that have these big buildings and the exco is sitting on the top floor. That's management from the top floor. I take them down all together. They have a branch or whatever, and I take them, and we're going to talk to the consumer and to the people. So it's management. We move from management from the top floor to management from the shop floor. Be empathetic, pulse, solve. The right to decide. We spoke about autonomy, and autonomy is linked to trust. The autonomy is one of the top three motivators. So when my players are on the pitch, okay, and they're close to the goal, and they said like, should I shoot or should I pass? And you know what they do? They look, I don't know, for the ones that like Manchester City, they look at Pep Guardiola, the coach. Pep, they put the foot on the ball. What should I do? Shoot or pass the ball? Where's the ball if they do that? It's gone. So in their frame, everybody is the general manager of its perimeters. For my players, my sports people, it's very easy. The frame is the pitch. Inside the pitch, zone of choice. Outside the pitch, zone of no choice. Okay? So we give them the empowerment and the decision, the right to fail. That's probably the one that I struggle the most to give to leaders, to managers. Do you have the right to fail? Okay? And when you fail forward. Madiba said, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. We change it. We say, you always learn. If I'm not allowed to fail, there will be no initiatives. There will be no exploration. There will be no curiosity. Give your people the right to fail. And if we look at it, my players, they have KPIs. So we worked for a long time with the Belgian national hockey team, Belgian Pride. They won gold in Tokyo. In last Olympics, they have KPIs. So what's a KPI for a striker? Number one, help me. Number of goals, okay? Number two, number of assists. I paused the ball. Number three, we were struggling. And we tried the numbers of times that they come and defend, but it wasn't working. They weren't scoring enough goals. And we changed this defending, we changed it to a KDI, key development indicators, and we changed it number of attempts to dribble. You know what dribble is? When a player has the ball and he can play safe. Pass it backwards, pass it to the left. There, we're going to measure the numbers of times they try, not the number of times they were successful. So my players have the duty to try and the right to fail. I'm going to end with the last one, and it was said, the right to grow. I mean, I don't know if you still participate in best place to work, best place, best employer. People don't come in your company to work. They come to grow and to thrive. And I'll end on this. They need feedback. They need learnings. How do we grow? Another speaker saw it. HR professionals, 70, 20, and 10. 70% on the job. So be available to give feedback. 20% social interaction. Problem with COVID. We lost a lot. So my advice would be, if you come to the office, come together. It doesn't make sense that one comes on Monday, the other one on Tuesday, and the other one. And then the last one is formal training, okay? So I want to end here. We're not going to do the Mentimeter. Please, these are our details. We're very much on LinkedIn. Connect with me, with my company on LinkedIn. And I wish you all the best in these tough times to win the World Cup like the Springboks did. So, thank you. Sorry, I was 20 seconds over.
Mr. van der Hofstad, there's a question for you from Unju.
A question?
Yes. It's from Koketso, and Koketso asks, should organizations openly acknowledge that some roles are inherently more demanding and come with a higher risk of burnout? Or does this create a justification for overburdening certain employees?
I don't think anybody is paid to have a burnout. No. Of course, I mean, there's higher executives. I need to disconnect 100%. You know, if there's a crisis, I think an executive should be available in weekends or this. But for me, I coach corporate athletes, not corporate kamikazes, okay? It's only a job, okay? So we are committed. We want to win gold. But I cannot win gold with a team that's not energized. Energy and performance is intrinsically linked. So look at the players. Graham said it, 40 minutes. So we switch them. When I have a player and he shows like, hey coach, here, I can feel it in my hammy. No, stay on the pitch. No, we change them. So it's the same. Hey coach, burnout. Stay here, I give you some more money. Is that a long answer, Abigail?
We've heard you. Thank you so much for a very insightful case study. Any questions from the audience? There's one here and one.
Please shoot.
Let's just get a mic to you.
I'm sure you have a loud voice. I'm old, so maybe I can't hear you. I come a little closer.
Hi, I'm Shanaz. I really, really loved your energy and I loved your talk. Thank you so much for that. So my question, there isn't a one-size-fits-all on this approach because different people cope at different levels. So my level of reaching burnout might be very different to a different person. How do you cope in managing that on an individual level as opposed to a one-size-fits-all?
Thank you for your question. It's a very good question. That's why we have these 3 levels. Self-care, I take care of myself. If Rassi and Jacques are not energized, the next one is the people care. So I engage with you on one-to-one. And I mean, a lot of mistakes that when I coach CEOs and leaders, it's the BLM, be like me. We are all different. And it comes back to what I said and others, empathy. Empathy. Can I empathize with you? People, listen, burnout, it's burn from inside out. It's not weak people that burn out, it's very strong people. So you have signals, you see it. When people start crying, when people can't sleep, when they isolate. So as a leader, it is your role to take care, as we said, of the team, but it is your role to take care of the individuals. And again, HR professionals, don't delegate it. Hey, HR, there's a problem there. Thank you.
I think we had one more question. Yes, go for it.
Because you need to go for lunch afterwards.
Yes, after this question, we're going for lunch.
We're going to recharge. It's one of the recharges.
So a lot of companies have kind of downsized, right?
Yes.
So how do you minimize burnout, but still operate at maximum? Because that's what's happening. So you've got a small team, but you expect it to operate at maximum capacity. How do you reduce burnout in a situation like that?
So here, what I suggest the people, the teams that I work with, can we move from efficiency, from effectiveness? Effectiveness, I do the things right. When I move to efficiency, I do the right things. Okay? So to take another sports example, to win a Grand Slam, tennis Grand Slam, I think you need to play 8 matches. You can win the 8 matches in 5 sets. You will probably play 20 to 25 hours. If you win them all in 3 sets, you maybe play 10 to 15 hours. So can we move from effectiveness to efficiency, setting priorities, using the 20-80 rule, and then if we can get into excellence. Excellence is sustainable efficiency, okay? But please empty your backpack. If you want to accelerate, have you tried to run 10Ks with a backpack of 5Ks? So empty your backpack. There's too much in there. So I would say priorities. If you don't have them for them, go to your manager. He needs to give you sense, and number 2, give me gold, silver, and bronze. And I'll make sure that those 3 priorities are set.
Fantastic.
Taking too long, huh, Abigail?
Empty your backpack.
I'm here today with my colleague Andrew, and tomorrow until lunch. So I would love to connect and to see if Mentally Fit can help to energize your company.
I'm sure. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. van der Hofstad. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Luke van der Hofstad, Executive Business Coach and Country Director at Mentally Fit South Africa. Now, I'm sure that we have worked up an appetite. We are going to take a lunch break. I will ask that we are back in the auditorium by 2 p.m. and we will see you back then shortly. Enjoy lunch. We'll be back on stage after.
Yes?